Hello and welcome back to an episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased. Joining me from the US, David Soileau. He is the co-founder and CRO of Gophr. Of course, as usual, I don't steal much from my guests' time. I keep it to them to introduce themselves. But just as a teaser for the audience, we're gonna talk, of course, about an interesting story of David, his background, and how he became a co-founder. We're gonna talk about logistics, last mile delivery, and a little bit about entrepreneurship also as well. Without further ado, David, thank you very much for joining me here today. Usual question, traditional question. Tell us a bit more about you, your background, your journey, and what you're currently up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. So we started with Gopher originally as a marketplace, right? So a little backstory on me. I should start with first. I spent 12 years in the Marine Corps. I got a master's degree in technology management, and I worked in the oil refineries as a crane operator for several years. And Gopher was just kind of a thought that really Warren Vandiver, our CEO and co-founder, came up with. Um, and our idea, his idea and what it kind of morphed into was a marketplace for people to shop local stores, get same day delivery, kind of like a mom and pop's answer to Amazon. Well, we got hit with COVID in
Hmm.
2020 when we launched, and then back-to-back hurricanes in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and it just shut us down. And the industrial clients, Cummins in particular, Cummins North America, got a hold of us and said, "Hey, can you deliver our stuff, our engines, our engine parts, pieces, hydraulic parts, all that?" Um, and we said, "Yeah." I mean, we needed a pivot, and it just kind of sucked us in. And from there, we just really became an on-demand delivery company, right? Logistics company where our customers could type in a to and from address, what they were shipping, and instantly get a quote and their full fleet at their fingertips, from cars all the way up to 18 wheelers, and full tracking, full accountability, digital bill of ladings. Really just revamped the idea of industrial logistics, commercial logistics, if you will. And it from there, we really made that pivot, by 2023, and full force into the industries, and still doing pharmaceuticals and some retail deliveries, but mostly into the industrial.
That's great. And thank you again, David, for sharing this. Everyone who I interviewed on the show, the pandemic was like a major event, so we call it like pre and post pandemic. So there's a this moment that I think it happened to everyone, maybe sometimes on the personal side, sometimes it's on the business side. Now, if I want to dig more into what you're currently doing, David, so when we talk about industrial buyers, and um, these operations teams, they don't care much about buzzwords, so they want one thing. We want our goods to be shipped and on time and delivered on time. So if I want to dig into the problem here that you're trying to solve, what are usually some of the hidden costs of unreliable, similar delivery businesses that most leadership teams, sometimes they underestimate, so they think it's easy to do?
I think the biggest thing is accountability, right? So we deal with problems like traffic, um, vehicle size, right? Where a particular size vehicle is needed, and the 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 agency, the third party delivery service, sends the wrong size vehicle. Um, or traffic's unaccounted for. You don't know where the driver is. You don't know if he's actually stuck in traffic or not. And so we've mitigated these problems with our tracking, as far as traffic goes, and making sure it holds us accountable. Like, we have to leave on time because our customers can see on the map where the drivers are. So if the drivers aren't on time to a spot, right, it's very clear. It's easy for it. Basically, we're telling on ourselves by having this tracking so accurate. Um, and on the other side of things, where the correct vehicle needs to be sent, it's as simple as first off, the shipper, the customer gets to select the vehicle size. And there's different ways to do this, right? AI helps the customer select the right vehicle size. And at the same time, our drivers see in the driver app what vehicle size it is, and they know to be very careful because they don't want to get somewhere in a car when it needs a truck, right? So there's a lot of visibility there, and we actually gray out some of these deliveries for our drivers to where if all you have is a car, you can't take this load. You don't even see the load, right? So that's just two of the mitigations we've taken for those big problems, right? The other thing is bill of lading. So documentation's tough. A
Hmm.
big problem is for these delivery agents, right? These third parties, they'll they'll go make a delivery. They got paperwork. It has to be signed, and they've got to bring it back to the origin. This causes a big problem, right? It's a free delivery a lot of times. What we've done is we've made it all digital, so where the recipient is actually signing on the phone of the driver, and that digitally signs the documentation, and it digitally sends back to the origin. Um, it's not perfect for every case. Some of these larger ticket items do require a physical copy, but it's been able to satisfy probably 99% of our deliveries. Just digital documentation is all it takes, and it's solved a huge, fiscal and um, you know, headache, a large headache.
Right. In such industries, usually, David, because you mentioned about sometime there will be requirement for physical stuff to happen, like signatures and so on. So when you build something like Gopher, what was like the harder part? Was it like, convincing people with the, adopting the tech itself that you have built? Was it like customer trust? Was it like the driver network? If you can, shed some light on these, because I think, there's a lot to unload there.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, really, with getting the adoption. So we're changing behaviors that have been set in stone. Many of the businesses that we service are, they've been in business for almost a century. Some of them over a century. They've been doing things a certain way. They were slow to adopt email, and
Hmm.
now they've been in email for the past 30, 40 years. So now it's getting them into um, the app world, or even just logging into a dashboard on a website to use the Gopher services. um, so there's definitely a barrier there, and that holds the second point you made with trust. I mean, getting them to trust software, where instead of emailing a person, they're filling out a form on the Gopher dashboard, and they press go, and they just trust that it's taken care of. Now we've mitigated this where they get alerts and notifications saying, hey, a driver has picked this up, right? A driver has accepted your load, and then you can see that driver's little ping on the map. So the trust is kind of satisfied that way, but you're still, you haven't talked to anyone still. And so the trust has been tough, right? So we added an extra layer to that where, okay, you can see when a driver picks up the load. You can see that they've accepted it, picked it up. You can see where they're at on the map. You can now even call or text that driver, so you can have that real person, kind of guarantee, like, all right, I've talked to a person. This is actually happening. I trust that it's getting done. Um, and that those have been the two biggest ones. Now, the third thing you mentioned was finding drivers. We
Hmm.
haven't had a big problem with that. We've really focused on paying well, right? Paying our drivers well and paying them instantly. So as soon as an order is completed, they get paid, and that kind of keeps us top of mind for them. Especially these car drivers they're doing Uber and Lyft and things like that. So when they see a Gopher order, they're like, yes, I want that, because I know I'm going to get paid right away. I'm going to get paid a lot more, right? Because the industrial movements, just industry standard, it pays more than a food delivery, right? So
Right. Now, one thing also, which is, I believe it was one of the, I'm not sure if I should call them challenges, if they were like, like like, these obstacles to cross. I'm trying to find like the right thing, word to describe this. you know I had some interaction with people in logistics. I didn't work in the sector, but back in the days when I was technology consultant, so I was trying to understand. I always used to do to understand the nitty gritty of the business, to try to see like how these guys operate, how they think. Now, one of the things that always came to mind is about how operations are done properly, about also like how the discipline can be always be on track, and of course the scale. Now, from your experience, David, what are like some of the metrics people in this space should be obsessed about, to make sure that we should not actually miss on this? Is it like delivery times? Is it like you know the amount of how many times you have delivered, and if there was no broken items or something like this? Like, what define really like what we call the operation excellence, if you want, discipline, and which allow us at the same time to scale?
Yeah. So I think I think that the big question is, okay, what is the definition of a successful delivery? Right. And
Hmm.
so it's I would say time to pick up the order, right? So from the creation of the order by the customer to the acceptance of the order by a driver, and then that's just one metric. And then it's from the time from creation to pickup of the order, right? Which sometimes is different because you'll have scheduled orders and things like that. And then there's the time from acceptance of an order to pickup of an order, and then and that's just really all those three metrics are before the order's even been, a delivery's actually started. So then you have successful deliveries measured in, the safety of the item being shipped, right? So anything being broken, lost, or stolen, um, or misplaced. So you've got those metrics, right, of successful deliveries, and then it's um, you know drive time to delivery time, right? So, our software tells us how long it should take to get it from point A to point B. How long did it actually take us? And and our track record, right? Our data shows that we have been very successful on this. We're about 99% successful across the board on all metrics that we measure. And that's due to our software being so highly sophisticated with the feedback of our customers and our drivers, taking all that into account and building out the most accountability friendly software, right? So, you know, like I mentioned earlier, where our customers can see when the load is accepted by a driver, they can see
Hmm.
where the driver is that accepted it, and they can talk to the driver directly. So it's really hard to hide mistakes there. So that keeps the driver honest, that keeps us honest, and keeps the customer in the know, right? So those have been the biggest pieces of that. And again, the pay is right. So our drivers know, as contractors, they know that if they don't do a good job, they may not get picked for the next delivery, right? There's a chance that that company says, "Hey, we don't want that driver again," right? It's happened a couple of times where they're like, I'd really prefer this guy instead of this guy, right? And it's, hey, the customer has a choice, right? So we've kind of tailored that, and it's worked so far, right? The other day we did a delivery from Wisconsin to Louisiana. It was a 23-hour drive. Actually, it was
Oh.
22-hour drive, and it was a carload, and that we actually did it with a team, right? So two drivers in one vehicle, and they made it in 23 hours. So they actually only stopped for a total of an hour along the way for that 22-hour delivery. And so great metrics like that, right? It really is a big deal. Now you have some deliveries that are 10-minute deliveries, right? Where it might be 15 minutes of delivery time, right? Where, they've hit traffic or, got stuck at a gate going into an oil refinery or something like that, right? So there's a lot of pieces that constitutes a successful delivery, but those are the biggest metrics. Is like, um, you know, broken, lost, or stolen. and time to pick up and drop off, and time from creation to acceptance by a driver. Those are probably the three biggest ones that you have to maintain because it will make or break your relationship with customers.
Yeah, so when you were mentioning all these, like the picture that came to my mind is like all these stacked together. So you offer better customer experience for the end user, like whoever is sending the package, right? Or whatever that is. And the way you just described it, it's like so easy. I can imagine, like it's like I'm ordering DoorDash or Uber Eats or like whoever people they use in their countries for ordering food. So it's the same experience, but except it's like actually for industrial use and anything you can think about it. So this is really great because I like to highlight these details because this is show David also um like how much time you have spent on understanding your users and what they need exactly, and again giving them the best experience that they can have ever, because like comparing to status quo, I would say maybe they had to go find company, maybe read some reviews, maybe these reviews are not like very accurate and they're not in you know any way informed about what's happening. So you are giving them all these insights like almost live, so they can see what's happening, they can interact with the driver. So this is great actually. Now I want to go, we will not go into the technical details, we will not talk about the bits and bytes of course, but you are a software platform at the end of the day, David, and I've
Mhm.
seen like also you talk about AI. Now in your industry, when you say AI powered, what does it mean exactly? Like how me as a customer for Gopher would see this, or I would feel the benefit out of it if I want to simplify it this way.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways, and we have more products that are coming out soon. But the first way is we have a pick to ship option where you can simply snap a photo of an item and it pulls the weight and dimensions and the name of that item and categorizes what vehicle is needed to move it. So that's our pick to ship option. It lives in the app itself, and it really speeds up the process of figuring out what vehicle to use, right, and making sure that the right vehicle is chosen. Um, and the other way is in our dashboard, you can type in, Yamaha piano and press, the AI assistant, and it spits out the same information. It tells you, this is how much this weighs, this is what you're going to need to move it. So one of our new products that's coming out is called the Go Pilot. And the way this works is you your driver is going to take a picture of the load once it's secured, and it pulls the information for that and makes sure that it follows the FMCA standards, the DOT standards, safety, everything is taken into account, and it's go or no go, right? Hey, no go, restrap it, fix this. It tells you what to fix. And if it says go, it's good to go. Everybody's got the peace of mind that this load is strapped down securely within regulations. And it mitigates problems, right? Those broken, lost, or stolen things.
Hmm.
So super, super cool stuff. And we've got some more things coming out with AI. And yeah, actually, a Google extension is rolling out here soon, just to speed up the process and to mitigate any you know fallacies, right? Any problems that we have in order creation.
David, there is a topic which again it came up from different guests in different businesses, right? So when you implement the AI, it's great. So because you're trying also to benefit out of the technology in the way that you described for your vertical in specific, but we talked also about having this balance between using AI automation while keeping the human in the loop, right? So when it comes to what you do at Gopher, where human stays in the loop, like what are like some of the things that you believe always a human should be involved in that, And yeah, we can rely maybe on AI for part of the task that I can do, but I wouldn't give it to the AI 100%. What that would be? Maybe one or more. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, with everything we do at the end of an order creation, it it involves a confirmation, right? So there's always going to be a confirmation page. Hey, does this look right? And it's a to and from address, what the items that are being shipped, when it needs to be picked up or delivered. Those are always, maybe not always, but at least for the foreseeable future, they're going to be checked by a human, right? Whether that's the shipper or go for internal, it will be checked. Having that, as long as there's people in the mix in any part of it, there has to be a check and balance from, service provider to customer in almost any industry. And having that interaction is really the bridge between this software adaptation, right? Where users are starting to adopt these practices of using software more and more in the industry. It just has to have human interaction. And as AI gets better and better, we're able to kind of move that human interaction more into the you know digital realm, where it doesn't have to have as much human interaction, just a quick check, right? The checks get faster and faster. We're able to confirm orders faster, it keeps everything mitigated properly. But I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it does indeed. Now, because we mentioned we mentioned COVID, and we mentioned, like, stuff that happens in business, that might affect us. Um, like, if you want to zoom out and like see what could be some of the risks, for businesses, where Gopher can come into the place and say, hey, like, like, despite this or despite that, this is why using Gopher would give you an edge in, unprecedented times, in when things like COVID happens, and so on. So I'm trying also here to find out, like, the risk mitigation that you might be able to offer, David, for businesses.
Well, the biggest risk mitigation is you pay for what you use, right? So when times get slow, and we were still operating during COVID, and delivering for different companies, even though the stay at home order was in effect. I mean, that helped out a lot. People were able to work for us on the side, right? If their job said, "Hey, go home," whatever, you're
Hmm.
furloughed, or we're gonna have to lay you off, right? They could pick up a job with Gopher, so that helped us with manpower. And at the same time, when times got slow, got slow for the companies, right? And so being able to just, hey, we got a delivery today, let's use Gopher. No delivery tomorrow, we don't have to pay anybody. So it was good with giving businesses the option for a pay on demand, right? On demand use of a delivery service. And I guess the next piece of that is really giving the full scope, our full fleet, to a business where you've got car drivers all the way up to 18-wheeler drivers. And so what this helps out with is offering customers more delivery options, more affordable options. So your retail stores and pharmacy stores can offer delivery, um, you know, just like that. They can say, "Hey, we have a full fleet now. We now offer delivery," and it could be the Gopher delivery fleet. And no one has to know who Gopher is. They just have to know that their stuff's getting delivered, and it's going to be delivered on time, and it's going to be delivered professionally. So whether it's a natural disaster or an epidemic, we can we can service anybody and everybody.
That's good to know, especially, because people, when they question um business model similar to you, so they try to find out, like, okay, like, of course, I'm sure you save them time and money and all the things that you mentioned. But I think talking about the risk sometime uh, from a B2B perspective has a lot and a lot of uh, positive effect, I would say, right? So um, it's incredibly important. Um, I want to talk about the margins, David, usually in this market, right? So we know that logistics is very margin sensitive and unforgiving. So on the you don't have to share the financials of the company, but how challenging is it? Because I'm asking this question because I started to see in different regions. I know in the US, it's a huge market. Like you have, it's a well established market, right? So and the gig economy itself, people knows about it. I'm seeing in the emerging market, whether like it's in you know part of the Middle East, Southeast Asia. So these things are now getting up, but the competition is so fierce, right? And sometimes we start to talk about startups, about okay, how they're gonna make money, and if they make money, are they able to make good margins so they can sustain? From your point of view, like, what is that true? First, maybe I'm mistaken, I don't know. And if it's not true, like, what are like some of the things other startups in the logistics sector can do to make sure that they can pass these low margins or margin sensitive effects that might pop up on the surface?
I think the real answer to that is is really who we are, right? And remembering that we're a tech company. The more that we can rely on and outsource to our technology and to AI, the less overhead we have, right? So we have a full-time staff at Gopher of 5 people. It is very low overhead. And what this allows us to do is to have lower margins, right? We keep everything digital, from accounting to dispatch, as much as possible, where it takes very little manpower. That's really the best way we've been able to scale and protect ourselves from having to worry about the margin to a big degree, right? Being able to kind of have lower margins and maintain, a particular revenue and keep our margins at a safe level, and even, sometimes lowest margins in the industry, right? And we do have some new products that I can't speak too much on the financial side of things, but more of the SaaS piece where we're really just a software that you're paying for, and technically you're paying the driver directly. There's no markup on the driver. There's no margin on the driver. You're just paying a software fee, and it's, very small. And actually we show our customers how much they're saving by using us this way. So they're literally paying what a driver would make and how much a vehicle costs to keep up, and no markup. So it's actually, our pricing is the lowest in the industry because of that.
Cool. I want to shift gears a little bit, David, and ask you like something more generic, I would say, but I believe it's very important. So um shifting or like transitioning from military to a startup leadership, it's like it's a big shift. Any And of course I know like people who works in armies all over the world. Like I met a lot of them, whether in the US, UK, Australia, even part of the emerging markets. So I know the discipline, I know the kind of leadership you learn there, right? But is there anything, and we heard a lot about the stories of what you can learn from there, but are there few things that, maybe some habits that you had to change, or maybe few things that you had to unlearn and relearn again to fit into the in the startup world?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the biggest things is, okay, not everybody moves as fast as a Marine, right? It's just me and Warren Vandiver are both Marines. And, we got to make sure we check ourselves like, hey, look, we're going to jump and move on something really quick, with not as much thought. Sometimes we should put more thought into things, right, before we just jump on it, which, that's been a little more learning, like, hey, wait, let's take our time and really think this through. Um, but kind of maintain that understanding that people aren't as, mission oriented as we are, the adapt, overcome, one of the phrases that's unique to the Marine Corps, right? Improvise, adapt, and overcome. um, it's not always that instance. Sometimes it's like, hey, look, you know what? We're not going to do this project, right? This is something that's outside of our scope. Let's not do it. Instead of saying yes to everything. That's probably the biggest one. The other pieces really is just, understanding that, not everybody is a good customer, right? I mean, it kind of goes along with the, hey, we're not going to do every single project that comes along the way, but
Hmm.
just learning who to say yes and who to say no to. And those are really the biggest pieces. Everything else, I mean, having that mission oriented mindset that the Marine Corps gave us has been huge. Not really seeing our company structure like a corporate structure necessarily, but like,
Hmm.
hey, we've got a mission and every man needs to be on the same page, and we've got to move towards the objectives and accomplish this mission successfully and safely without any casualties, right?
Right. Now, how, on the other side, how also, having this experience helped you in maintaining, I would say, as a leader now, because, you're part of the leadership in the company, to maintain, clarity, especially when you have these pressure, right? I'm not sure if you are investor backed or not, but I'm sure, like, even if there are no investors, like, our families are waiting and we need to, like, deliver results, right? So people, they say, yeah, like, founders feel miserable because of the investors, and it's not always the case, because actually you need to deliver for yourself first, for your
Yeah.
families, for your, people who trusted you. So how that experience help actually in maintaining this clarity, because, again, based on my discussions with a lot of founders here on the podcast and outside, one of the things, and a lot of investors and operators told me this, like, sometimes the reason why founders they drift, or maybe sometimes they give up, is because they don't have this ability to grow under pressure. So for you, of course, maybe your, background help you, and the reason I'm asking you this, is this something that we can learn outside of the armies? If I never went to the army, or maybe, I don't know, I wasn't able to go, can I learn even something that can let me be more, I would say, capable to maintain, my sanity, let me call it this way, when there's high pressure?
Yes, I mean, the biggest thing I would say is goals, right? The military definitely sets goals, and a mission, right, in the military is constructed out of a goal, right? What is my purpose?
Hmm.
Um, we have to orientate ourselves to the purpose. Okay, I need this much revenue by this time, with this much margin to acquire this much net profit, right? And just doing the math on it, right? And you figure out what you need, where you need to be. And then, the second step to planning that mission is, to actually figure out what, what steps I need to take to get to that mission accomplishment, right? And then, okay, so is the mission accomplishable? Do I have enough time with this goal that I'm trying to reach? Do I have enough time to accomplish the steps that it takes to achieve this goal? And then the third piece is to actually do it and to supervise it, right? And that's not the exact order that they taught us in. Anyone from the military listening would be like, no, that's not the OODA loop, or that's not, BAMSIS, right? Which is some crazy acronyms I won't get into, but but that's the gist of it, right? So make a goal, make the time frame, and make the steps, right? And then make sure that you can accomplish those steps within that time frame, and then act, right? So, and that's really the most important thing is, we can make goals all day, we can figure out the steps to take, but if action and follow up aren't there, if supervision isn't there, it doesn't get done. So that's something everyone can learn. And, some learn it the hard way, some learn it the easy way. It's just learn it as fast as you can. make goals, find the steps, accomplish the steps, and you win. Um, and and we've seen that, it seems like 99% of the businesses that fail, they they give up. They fail to
Right.
act, right? So when something does go wrong, you say, okay, I'm going to find, I'm going to build a bridge across this, or I'm going to find a way around this mountain, or I'm going to go up and over. Nothing's getting in my way. And that's really a possibility. I mean, that's what we had to do after the hurricanes, after COVID. We adapted and we pivoted. And when we pivoted into another industry, it was okay, you know, can we do this? What do we need to get it done? And we made that happen.
That's great advice, actually, and I agree with you on, regardless, as you said, if it's related to the army or not. I think the purpose, the goals, why you're doing what you do, right? Like, well, when you wake up, why you go and do few things, the first thing first, right? Because for sure you have a purpose. You need to define it. And I've seen people who fail to do this, and they think, yeah, like yeah, I like to do this, but you don't feel really this passion, this determination, because they don't have defined, in my opinion, the purpose why they do what they want to do. Now, building, and this is for founders or to be founders, not necessarily in logistics, David, like I would say in operations heavy businesses, right? What you can say they have to avoid in the first year, like at any cost? Like, what are like some of the pitfalls you say, like, hey guys, make sure you don't do these things? What would that would be?
Oh, I would say definitely is pace yourself, right? And not pace yourself operationally, pace yourself financially. So whether it's investors or your own money, or you're using profits, is take your time. You can do a lot more with a lot less than you think. And this is super important. I mean, everyone makes mistakes. We made plenty of mistakes early on where we spent money on things we shouldn't have. If we'd have just thought it through a little bit more, we'd have been like, hey, we could save that money and not do this. We'll do this instead. So that's probably the most important thing. When someone gives you advice, like, hey, you should do this, check it. Ask 2 or 3 other people. Make sure that every expenditure is 100% valuable. Map out the ROI that you expect and see it through. And that's really the most important piece, I say, is don't overspend. There's always a cheaper option, or there's the right option, right? So sometimes it's expensive, sometimes it's cheap, sometimes it's free, but make sure it's worthwhile before you do it.
That's great advice. Great advice, David. Now, back to Gopher, and you mentioned like you're building some stuff. I would not ask this very cliche question, but what's the ultimate goal? Like, how do you see the company in a couple of years? I don't know, 1 year, 2 years. Like, where do you envision Gopher to be?
Well, growth is everything, right? So we're currently we span across the United States, right? Kind of peppered out through the United States. What we're looking at is really saturating a lot more markets. We would like to really take over the Northeast a lot more, the Midwest, and the Northwest. And we have customers popping up and placing orders in these areas already,
Okay.
but really a lot more saturation. Um, that's that's pretty much our biggest goal is getting to more saturation, getting our SaaS built up, and really more products, right? More software products that makes logistics easier.
That's great and very ambitious goals, I would say. As you are coming to an end, David, like again, a traditional question. Any final things maybe I should have asked you and you want to share with the audience? And of course, where people can get in touch and learn more.
I mean, I think that was a lot of great questions. I really was. I think the biggest thing is to go for it, right? Uh, there's not really a bad idea, a bad business idea. Just maybe not fine-tuned business ideas. So find it, fine tune it, test it, check with people around you, and then to get in touch with us, you can visit our website, gophorapp.com. That's GOPHRAPP.com. Or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And we're always happy to chat with people and find new ways to do business. So give us a shout.
Great. For the audience, you don't have to go and search. I'm gonna put all the links in the show notes so you can find them. If you are listening on your favorite podcasting app, you'll find them in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find them in the description. Well, David, really, I enjoyed also the conversation, and I like when I talk to people like yourselves who they have skin in the game, they know what they're doing, and they are willing to share. And this is why the show exists, because people like yourself come, they talk about what they do, and at the same time they share the stories that they have learned, down the line. So this is really what's good. Thank you very much for sharing your time today.
Thank
And
you.
this is how usually I end my episodes for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast, by luck, thank you for passing by. I hope you enjoyed. Give me a favor, subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming again and again, the loyal followers, fans. I can't thank you enough. Since 2026 and even since last year, I was repeating myself every episode because I feel I need to do it more. I'm very grateful because of you only. The show made it in its place to be on the top 200 podcast charts, the Apple podcast charts in different countries. Of every country, we're like roaming somewhere. Again, this doesn't happen, by itself. This because you are recommending, you are telling other people about the show, and we are trending in some countries. I'm still waiting for the people in the US, some other countries also as well, but that's fine. We're doing fantastically well. The downloads are increasing month on month, which make me happy also as well. So thank you very much for your encouragement. And as I say always, stay tuned for a new episode very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.